and welcome to the Priggya Arora Show, where we promote entrepreneurship in law through conversations with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, founder of PA Legal and Intellectual Property Law Firm in India, and our guest for today is Debashish. Debashish is an amazing human being with a variety of experience in engineering, management, psychology, and law. Let us directly dive into a conversation with him. Let's begin with, we all have some stories to tell and our life story basically. So let's begin with your life story and how you become the person you are today.
Right. So I'll tell you how it worked out for me. Much like every Indian student ever, I did engineering. When I went into engineering, I really did not know what to do. In fact, what I did is in second year, I tried everything. So I was part of every student organization that ever existed in my university, and my university is huge. So I was actually part of about 9 to 10 student organizations, and kind of juggling between each, trying to understand what is it that I want to do. Do I want to be in data, or do I want to be in IT? I honestly ran away from technology because I was already studying it for like 6 to 7 days, 6 to 7 hours a day, right? That's what we do in classes. So the idea was to actually explore all other options. So I was part of the NCC, saw if army life would work for me. I was part of NSS, tried doing some social stuff. I started my own NGO actually, right? So a registered NGO, trust me. So I had 3 registered organizations right in my bachelor days. And once I did all this, I really couldn't figure much. I was still confused. The thing is, people said experiment and then you'll learn. But then I did experiments, but they weren't conclusive. So that's when my mentor told me, go get a job. Right? His idea was just go get a job. You will get some clarity. Right? So that's when I went ahead. I got into Accenture. I got into Accenture Technology. And then while I was in technology, I realized they were doing things which were far away from technology, right? They were into consultation of things that could have been done. So I wasn't part of the R&D stuff, right? The fun in technology happens in R&D. That's where you develop stuff. So I took up sales role, and then I shifted to Byju's because I knew I had 3 startups. I failed in all 3, right? Some initial traction, I had some foreign clients, everything going good, but not that great of a traction. So I knew sales is super important. That's where a lot of startups fail. So I took up sales in Byju's, right? And then I started working with Byju's. I realized how they go about with the lead flow and stuff. Super, super amazing experience. It was hard, but it was good. And once I was in Byju's, right, and then I made a shift to my family business for about 8 months. The idea was to actually implement everything that I ever learned into something that fetches me revenues, which is mine. I started working for my family business, and then I realized the problem was that I wasn't educated enough. I mean, contemporary to a belief, right? People say education and parallel worlds or the job world or the real world is very different. I, on the other, believe that education is nothing but manifestation of human experiences. That's what education is all about, right? So I started doing my MA in psychology. I finished my MA in psychology. I finished my MA in economics. I finished my postgraduate certification. It's an advanced certification in cyber law. I went ahead with my MBA. So I did quite some things, right? And once I did all this, kind of figured out that, hey, all this kind of led into the same thing. The same fundamentals and philosophies were taught in everything that I've ever been part of. And that's when I realized that the problem is that people never invest into research.
Yes.
Right. And that's when I started with my firm Feasibility Plus. It's pretty much 2 months old. I try to help people with their startup ideas. At the same time, I'm working with few other solutions as well for the government, actually. And that's my whole idea. That's been my journey. I am 26 with 3 master degrees, 1 advanced PG certificates, and a bachelor's degree in engineering, much like you. So we have changed our careers from BTech to engineering. Sorry, from BTech to law, and then from BTech to, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something cool, I know for sure.
Great. So I feel so jealous that you are 26 and you have so many degrees with you. I kind of feel I have only 2. I should have done more. So people like you just make me jealous about the knowledge and skills they have. So yeah, similar to what I think and do in life, I have this question for you too, that what made you so keen to continuously pursue your knowledge in multiple areas and everything? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, unless you study, your knowledge is incomplete and people don't realize it.
Correct.
The entire world is running in super specializations. They so want to. I was lucky actually. I had some amazing mentors in my BTech days. So one of my mentors was from the School of Business in our university, and he was the ex-CEO of Reliance Telecommunication, big time person, right? So he said that even he was an engineer, IIT IIM guy, amazing person. So he says, Debashish, as an engineer, you must know how to make an engine. That's where you begin. Unfortunately, of all people who graduate as engineers have no clue how to make an engine. So you have people who straight away deep dive into making some sophisticated tech using some existing tech, but they don't know how to make an engine. And that's the case with almost all courses. They are so job oriented that you end up learning a super specialized degree or a specialized course without even understanding the fundamentals. I always wanted to study fundamentals, and I was lucky because I was part of the entrepreneurship cell in my college as well. And there was this time then I was leading the entrepreneurship cell as well. I kept meeting some amazing entrepreneurs. So one fine day we had this amazing entrepreneur coming. He was mostly into real estate, some amazing thing he was doing. And he says, he comes up and says, how many of your parents are in government job? I rose my hand. He said, how many of your parents are from a job? I rose my hand again. So he says, people who raised hand first, if you don't try up on entrepreneurship, you should go die. Like your father, mother are going to get pension. In Hindi, he said this, unhe tumhare nalayak honne ka koi tension, which can pretty much translates into, they don't really have to worry about you being you're not earning as much. They'll get pension, right? So your risk actually becomes really less. And then that's when I realized, right? If we don't understand, if me as an individual whose parents have been in job, they will get a pension, or even in business, right? If you have your parents who are in established, I don't understand. See, if you have, because I had friends in BTech who took loan to complete their education. I understand that they cannot take a risk. But this will be highly unfair if as someone who has been privileged to have parents who are into job or who have saved enough for their, after the job life to not take risk in life.
Okay.
And that's when I started with my startup. I kind of felt, yeah, what's the harm in learning? I'll get a degree, right? I'll not get a degree if I don't try. So you learn, you take risk in life. I juggled between jobs, trust me. I was working with Accenture, Byju's while I was completing my MA in psychology. And in psychology, you have to go attend labs. Like you will have subjects you have to talk to, right? So I was selling people and then talking to people, selling people, talking to people, struggling between things. Trust me, those one-to-one conversations that I have had with subjects are so deep-rooted that they have changed my perspective to life. Because I met people who had lost someone, because that's what you do in counseling, right? You talk to them. I had people, and that's when you realize money is nothing. Because I had people who were very rich, super rich, lost husband, and she had no direction. She felt, hey, what am I supposed to do? I had people who were going through divorce, and they were both fine. They both had high respects for each other. I'll perhaps rate them higher than most people that I see around. And they're still in a relationship. And they were better, but yet decided to part away. I had such philosophies in my life through those interactions that it made me feel a little small, drop into the ocean. I said, hey, hold on, let's learn more. Let's explore more. Because explore through experiment is not the only option.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So, I am also a continuous believer of we should upgrade ourselves, upskill ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
Unlearn, relearn, and everything. Because as we all know now that our college curriculum is not something which we can live on. Sometimes, like our engineering college used to follow a curriculum of, I think, 1980s or so. So everything evolves, and then people have to spend time in learning what they want to learn, and not just learn anything that comes on the way. Anything that comes on the way is also a perspective to explore things. But then eventually, when you are taking risk with especially a startup, then some directional learning has to be there, like what are the skills
Mm-hmm.
where people lack in, and what do they want to develop. uh,
Mm-hmm.
Coming to psychology, I like to say that psychology is a subject which is underrated among startups, lawyers, and I think everyone. I had a conversation with another person. He said, I am doing a research on type of clients and types of mindset which the clients have. So it's called client types. So it's a branch of psychology called client types. And if lawyers could learn that, I think it would be something amazing to just figure
Mm-hmm.
out their case, their mindset, and everything.
In fact, I feel because I was lucky when I was doing my psychology degree, right? So I had Manpreet. So Manpreet is the manager of a district court.
Mm-hmm.
And then super, super fun. Actually, we both were riding our scooties and the Activas actually. And a police person caught us. He's like, you don't have a helmet. So his reply was, court mein aake le jana. So that kind of attitude, right? Super amazing person. Bad thing to do, but theek hai. So he was actually pursuing psychology because he wanted to get into negotiations.
Yeah.
And then I met one more person who was again a lawyer who did psychology because he wanted to help children who committed crime.
Great.
So I believe there are people, but unfortunately, we are so driven with idealism. We always want to be the chief justice of the country. Like talk to any other person in our country, and they want to be an IAS officer. Like a 9-year old telling me I want to be an IAS officer. I'm like, can you write it down for me somewhere if you can? So psychology is certainly a very underrated form, subject. But I was lucky to have met people because they were lawyers and they are pursuing psychology. Unfortunately, even today the system is such, and not only in our country, I would say our country is way developed than a lot of other countries.
Correct.
But the system is such that people are not as educated. I find people with traditional law degrees taking up cyber law, which is a complete different course, although there are similarities. And the way you justify things, it's the same. But it's a big country. Why can't you just, have someone with a super specialization? So let's see. Psychology will play a big role in coming days, because end of the day, I for one believe psychology is the mother science of all stuff. In fact, philosophy is the mother science of all these studies around. The next comes in line is psychology and sociology, and then comes economics, business studies, engineering, and stuff.
I know, and I think all these fields are so underrated because people come out of their 12th standard and they're just pushed into something. But I think life skills and whatever skills we require to live our life are in these subjects. That the traditional law course or a traditional engineering course or a traditional medical course is preparing us to be good lawyers, uh, good doctors, good engineers, but they're not telling us how to be good human beings, how to connect with people, how to understand the case, how to have a good conversation, how to understand the party. And these are the skills which every even if you are a lawyer, doctor, engineer, every person requires. And the crux of all this is psychology, sociology, and philosophy. So I think these are some underrated subjects, but these have to be taught to everybody.
Definitely should be part of the entire thing. Today, the world is changing. I believe the future of our country and the complete country. I'll give you a metaphor here, right? Just try to understand this. So we go to school from about 8 in the morning to maybe 4, right? So that's like 8 hours. We wear a uniform. We are made to talk in a common language. We are made to talk or give respect to our teachers, even if they're teaching wrong. We have to be very respectful. Isn't this very similar to a job environment?
Absolutely.
Think of it. So the idea of school education in our country, and unfortunately even in a lot of countries, is to actually make you job prepared.
Absolutely. 100%.
I kind of envy the education model in Japan, or how do you pronounce it? I would say Japan, where they have to clean their dishes, they have to help clean the entire classroom, they have to learn taxation, cooking. And also I kind of envy the models in a lot of European countries where they don't have to wear a uniform, they are allowed to take breaks, people don't judge you if you take a cab. So as it happens, I kind of made shifts, right? There was a time after my MBA where I was really low. I had no idea if my startup will work or not. That happens when you start with a new brand. You have made a decision that you want to take it further, and you're not getting any clients. I mean, you're not making money, and your friends are earning in lakhs. Like a friend of mine got placed at 44 LPA, a very close friend of mine. I was like, bro, if 44 LPA, I'll take 3 years to reach that benchmark.
Yeah.
Right. So I felt that that's hard. But then later did I realize, and you know what? To my surprise, he left his job. He left his job and started his startup. And I said, dude, so all this time I thought, he's doing good in life, he's all sorted. But then once he reached that place, realized that, hold on, perhaps that's not what we're seeking for. So the entire degree needs to be, needs to make us, the entire education system to begin with will have to help us make correct choices in life. That's super important. And learning SST, learning basic sciences is okay, but we have to spare time into learning how to make correct decisions. Unfortunately, moral science is taught only until standard 5. They don't teach it in standard 10th or 12th or in school or in colleges, and that's sad.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like we should, like, school should focus more on preparing humans to be human beings rather than human resources.
Correct.
Everybody is moving towards human resources. Humans are not resources. Humans are living beings. So we have to be human beings first and then become a human resource. But all our education system is probably teaching us to be human resource than a human being.
Yeah, I mean, I feel every human by the very virtue of birth becomes a resource, because even if you're working as an unskilled labor, you're working for someone, right? If you're working as a skilled labor, you are a super good, a really amazing, let's say, a good resource. However, resource is a very subdomain of just being humans.
Yeah.
You have to understand that. And when we focus on making people job oriented or making them a resource, be it self-employment, employment, or any other way of employment, right? You focus on a very small aspect of life. You don't look at big pictures. And I'm very sure this is one of the best things that have happened during Corona. People are slowly learning that they don't need a job to, they don't need a high paying job to be happy. They really need their family. They're looking back into what is it that they want. I have so many friends in my circle who have left their jobs and are earning a decent pay through doing things that they want in their life, and they're happy. So people have been looking for motivation, right? On the deathbed, people will pay a lot of money to have memories. But then you don't make memories doing jobs that are not what you intend to do. As in, you jobs that have been given by others just because you need money. So you have to make memories, and memories can happen through purpose. Now, what happens is, let me walk you through one of the very classical theories. So, classical theories essentially in any social media or social studies, you have the classical studies, which were philosophies and research given maybe in the 1700s and 1800s when the thing was developing. So then came the theory of needs, which is pretty much a pyramid. And right on top of the pyramid is self-efficacy. What does self-efficacy stand for? Is, is when you have realized what is your purpose in life or to people, and then you work on that. That's when you have met all your safety needs, all your survival needs, or all your you're done understanding money doesn't mean a lot. It does mean something, but not a lot. And I believe right from the beginning, if people can aim on those self-efficacy stuffs, there are chances that you can skip some years wasted. Live for your last night on earth, please. Because end of the day, if on your last breath you're not happy with your life, there's no point living life right now. Think of it this way: there is no tomorrow. This is your last day. So what is it that you're going to do? Are you going to do things that are making you happy, or making you on the last day on this earth happy? Do that. Live for memories is what I'll say. Take breaks. It's okay to say a few clients, you know what, I'm taking a break, I'll not work. It's good to say no.
Absolutely. I think if God give me one choice to to do something for myself, I'll say just I want to be happy in every moment of my life. Nothing else matters. If I am happy, I'm fine. I can do work. I can speak to clients. I can do unlimited amount of work if I am happy, and that's the reason probably I too switched over and started off with my own practice.
I mean, I do this experiment with a lot of my subjects, especially with my friends. All my friends, somehow they think psychology and psychiatrism is the same thing. And I'm like, this isn't, I can't prescribe you drugs. That's not my forte, right? Drugs in the sense medicine, like, it's important to mention medicine. So I do this experiment with a lot of my friends. I tell them, think of it, take some time, distant yourself from people, and then think of it. Say, if you're about to die, I want you to think of all the good memories that you've ever had in your life. And if I tell you that you are going to die in maybe the next one day, what is it that you would want to do? And then they come up with something like, I would like to meet up people, my friends, spend some time with them. And then I kind of reduce the time. I tell them, all right, so what if I tell you that you are about to die in an hour? That's the last question that I often ask. And trust me, their answers are that I would like to hug my mother. I would like to tell my father how much, he means to me, how much I would like to tell my partner that, he's been a very good support. So when narrowed down to that 1 hour of life left with you, people are talking about telling people stuff that they can actually tell every day. But unfortunately, they don't. It just narrows down to those communication stuff. And in life, be it entrepreneurship, you do entrepreneurship to be happy, right? That's when you do entrepreneurship. Otherwise, there's no point doing it. There are so many definitions of entrepreneurship. There are legal definitions of entrepreneurship. In USA, they say that any firm working in non-predictive environment is a startup. I mean, that's practically business. But anyways, they say that is entrepreneurship. But I believe entrepreneurship is living for those 1 hour, 2 hour last moments of your life. If you have that motive, if you have found something, a gap that is worth living for, because in end of the day, when you have that 1 hour, 2 hour left in your life, you can say, you know what, it is because of my efforts that gap or that problem was made a solution. Because when you're making solutions, you have memories. When I was working for NSS, especially with my NGO as well, so it's working parallelly for both. I used to go around and teach people basic computers, like Microsoft Word, Excel. Those kids, they've never seen laptop. And we guys had laptop in BTech days, right? Everybody had laptops. That's what you do in NSS mostly. So NSS, by the way, stands for, it is in government Indian, national service scheme. I believe it's national service scheme, but yeah, because a lot of people might not know what NSS is. It's essentially taking your time off to do some voluntary work. And I came home, I came to hostel was home then. So I came back to hostel with smiles, and they kind of stuck with me for the entire week. I kind of felt that my 2 hours made more sense to me than the entire week. And that's what entrepreneurship does to you. And end of the day, if you have those smiles, because if you are serving a client well, he will have smile on his face. He'll tell you, dude, it was because of your involvement that the project made this success. Or, you kind of become friends with I have for sure become friends with my clients. I'm like, your idea is not going to work. He goes, bro, why are you saying this? I'm saying, because I want to be the devil advocate and make it better. This will not work at this point. So it becomes fun. It's those communications, those 1 hours that you live for. So that's my take on entrepreneurship, right?
Great. So Debashish, now, from engineering to psychology to entrepreneurship, and let's now come to cyber laws. So how did you choose cyber law as a subject, and what was your motive behind it, and how it's helping you now?
To begin with, I was fascinated by law because my father was a bureaucrat, right? And I understand that laws kind of is important. I took up economics and I realized that, hey, laws are important because we have to save the commons interest as well. We cannot be working for one person interest. But when you look into the present world, everything changing from physical world to a cyber world, where things are all intangible, because you are an IP lawyer, attorney as well, and you understand that the intangible assets will perhaps have more value than tangible assets in the future.
Absolutely.
Right. But the laws around intangible assets have to be a little different, although there are metaphorical similarities between the cyber law and the physical law. It's kind of the same. It follows the same sentiments and all things, but then you have to twist the laws. Because here you have something called copyright, right? I am the wrong person to tell this. You will perhaps be the better person to tell what copyright is. But you see, you understand profiling 360, right? Pretty much looking. So things are different in the tangible world. If you have a land on your name, nobody can replicate that land. That land is yours. But in the intangible world, in the cyber world, let's say. So in the cyber world, what is yours can be someone else's in just 1 second or 2 seconds. All you need to do is Control C, Control V, ta-da. So that's what sparked me, that if the very fundamental of these two universes are different, here we are talking of unlimited resources and in the cyber domain, because everything can be copy pasted. We are talking of a shared economy because you don't need to copy paste. You can pretty much use the same thing. But in the real world, that is not the same.
Yes.
So if these two are different, why are we following the same domain? I mean, why are we following the same rules for it? So fortunately, Indian government is working on it. There are amazing people that I have met who are working on it, but because this is a very new concept and we need to save the interest of few big giants, sarcasm. so things are.
I really get that sarcasm.
So things are a little slow, but I guess with proper people being involved in the process, we should have cyber laws as strong as Europe. Europe has done some really good work on it. Singapore has done some brilliant work on it.
Yeah.
And once we have those laws with us, where we can save the interest of commons, much like the normal laws, it should get going.
And I think all these domains are like ever evolving, because
correct.
The new technology, the new ways of living, 5 years ago from now, we never knew that cryptocurrency will pop up like a huge giant in the business. And similarly, I think when we were in school, we never had laptops. We had big computers and everything set up. And previous to that, when we were in our KGs and everything, computer was not there. So we have seen step by step, the era has changed, everything is changed. And now people are speaking about space laws, and things like that. And I think one is this outer space where we live in, and one is this internet and digital space where we live in. Both are contradictory and both are ever evolving. Even outside space is ever evolving. The internet space or the digital space is ever evolving, so law has to be ever evolving, and people are working towards it. It's not that people are not working towards it, but sometimes we get less number of people who understand the intricacies involved in all aspects of this, and here comes the specialization which save us, and probably we get an interest and we try to evolve ourselves in that field.
Right. I mean, the law itself is not understood, because what happens is, let's take an example, right? So we have police to protect the interest of people when it comes to criminal laws and civil laws. That, police can take over, not for civil law, at least for criminal police can, and for civil, unless it's stated by a court, it's difficult. So you have a big organization to actually help people with it, right? But when it comes to cyber, unless there is a fraud, police won't really get involved unless there is someone's personal material being, you understand what I'm saying?
Correct.
Or, some bad thing happening on the internet, police will not get involved. Now, the problem in this entire thing is, in the cyber world, you have very defined things. You have defined ownership. In the cyber world, your ownership is defined, protected by agreements. And who governs these agreements? So we are looking at a P2P world coming in. So we are looking at in the cyber world, in the normal world, you don't have a P2P stuff. It's those government bureaucracy departments which pretty much make those agreements and rationalize those agreements. But especially with crypto and FII, this is very interesting. The first paper on crypto was written about 50 to 60 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not new.
Yeah.
It's not new, but then the implementation took so much time. And I often, yes. So I often talk to my, one of, the co-founder for one of the organizations that I'm working, for is a cybersecurity expert, right? Her domain is into cybersecurity. And she very correctly told me this, that crypto is the present best technology. But we cannot say that this will be the future. Perhaps because there were Russian hackers, a group that had hacked the Estonia's. It's all said so. I am not sure about it. They say that they happened, much like the India-Pakistan stuff. Let's not make it politics. But they said that so and so happened, and their entire infrastructure, which is based on blockchain, which is essentially driven from crypto, was hacked. Was down for quite some time. So I believe crypto is changing. As you said, the entire world is changing. We are looking at a very disruptive tech. And more than our generation, I feel sad for the generation before us. Because my father has, until he graduated, had never seen. My mother had seen a computer.
Yeah.
Because she went ahead for her PhD and stuff. So they're all with advanced research tech and stuff. So she had a computer access. My father did not. He graduated from a state college, a state school. So that schooling system where he was taught Sanskrit sloks, and then slowly he got into commerce and then law. So he did an LLB as well. So he's an MCom LLB, my father. And right. So I kind of feel I get these things from my parents as well. I realized it kind of right now. So I realize, in our future, our generation ahead, who are presently the decision makers. We need to understand everything is made for decision makers, right? The present decision makers have no idea on how computer works, sadly, but they are making decisions on cyber laws. So you expect there will be some problem, but let's see how fast do we come up with solutions for it.
I was saying I too feel sad about it, because sometimes the kind of cases we deal in, it becomes so difficult to explain to the decision makers that what kind of intricacies are involved when we combine law, technology, and we come up with something. Yeah. So especially in India, we are still progressing towards that, but I don't think we are evolved to the extent which is required.
Mm-hmm. It will take time, right? In fact, a lot of time I have said to a lot of government organizations and to people abroad as well, that India for once is a very new country. I mean, 75 years old. We just celebrated 75th Independence Day, right? So it's a fairly new thing. We post-independence, for the next 30, 40 years, we were just figuring out how to go about with things.
Correct.
You can't just expect, and India is a huge country. It's like the second most populous country. Just in comparison, the square kilometer density in Australia, because the central part is completely vacant, it's a desert area, is roughly three to four. Compared to India, it's more than 950. So it's difficult to manage such huge crowd, and we will take time. Even today, I proudly say that the Indian laws are not as bad.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
we compare ourselves, we compare ourselves to Europe and America. America has been in existence for maybe 5 times our age.
Yes,
Europe was actually the ruling party.
yes,
They were the one ruling. So you see, they have been in existence. They have been working on it. Even in standard 8th and 9th in Indian system, we study French Revolution. We study, a lot of revolutions that I did not study. I like French more.
correct, correct.
So you see, we study theirs. Ours was a movement.
Absolutely.
There was a revolution. You see the difference right here. So it will take time from that movement to revolution stage, and we will come to that revolution stage sooner or later.
Debashish, very good point here. I myself, I keep reading about evolution of law, evolution of everything. I read an article where it was written that we have to we do not have to project for 5-10 years when it comes to things like this. We have to take projection of 200 years and see what will like if we start with a small process step by step. After 200 years, it's the time that we can expect good big changes. Like for big changes, it takes that amount of time. So that's why we see generations pass by, and then we see something coming with a good bang. Just a bang that India has done something, or US has done something, or Europe has done something.
In
But
fact,
that kind of projection.
it does. In economics, we study public economics. There's a domain called public economics where we try to build social wealth. Now, social wealth is fairly similar to the currency wealth, right? But in social wealth, people actually get a better standard of living.
Right.
Now, just to give you a reference here, in the industrial age, now I'm talking of industrial age in London, right? So the river in London, I am forgetting the name. I guess it's Thames. I'll have to verify. So that was very dirty, right? People could not use that river, the water of the river, and they decided that they will come up with laws that protects because river is a common, right? It is meant to be used by everyone. And after maybe 50, 60 years, we could see a gradual change happening. And today, London is one of the cleanest cities. I believe so.
Yes.
Right. Despite being a super populous place and stuff. But you see, these things are happening in India now. So there is a stark difference of about 300 years where Ganga is super polluted, Yamuna is super polluted, and we have to make laws. And we are talking of an industrial era pushed changes. So all the pollutants are perhaps 10 times the pollution there was in London. So our efforts will be 10 times as well. And it took them 50 years to naturally make that river worth a city, a cleaner city. So I'm giving just an example here, but all public laws have to look into the 50, 60 years of changes. In fact, to this, I'll point out something that my human resource teacher told me pretty much in every class, that, when you give benefits to people, think it 10 times, 100 times, perhaps a million times, that you are giving someone benefit, because it's really difficult to take away the benefit.
Correct.
You see, a lot of public policies that are being designed around are actually giving them the short-term stuff. For example, the reservation in our country. People struggling, people actually doing a lot of things like, march and then protest to get the OBC or an SC/ST stuff. And you give it to them. It's really difficult. Now we are at a point that we know this is not a good thing to do. We should not be giving away reservations. But can we take it away is the question. We cannot. Because the moment you try to take it away, there will be protests. There will be people saying no. And because this is a democracy, you have to listen to people. So that's the same with laws, you see. You have to be 100% sure that the law or the benefit through the law that you're giving is important. For example, the RTI, right? We came up with RTI. But then the very moment the RTI was launched, the government was very clear that RTI does not, it just does not encompass everything. So you cannot ask about defense related things. Now, I don't know if that was a loophole made or it was made in genuine interest, but that's important, right? So we have to understand exceptions while making law. The entire idea of this thing that I was saying is that at least as lawmakers, as policymakers, as the youth, we need to understand exceptions more than the law itself. But unfortunately, the entire education system kind of teaches you the laws. It does not teach you the exceptions. And when you understand the exceptions, do you excel with life?
Absolutely. Amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. So now, coming back to probably I'll ask you this, that I know you're not a lawyer, completely lawyer kind of person, but you are an entrepreneur who is related to law, who is working in various fields with the government, with the private sector, and with a lot of experience. So what advice would you give to young legal entrepreneurs? How should they go about it, and what should be their kind of roadmap with life? Yeah, let's put it this way.
All right. So the second part is difficult. The first is super easy. So I'll tell you about the one thing that, in fact, you know what? Now that I think of it, both are the same. See, when you are, life is completely, I remember in my operation management classes, we had the CEO of a very big operational firm coming in, into a lot of maintenance, designing, in the terms of designing processes. So he said, why do you guys do an MBA? So a lot of people said to be effective leaders or to understand business world. And after maybe asking people for around 10-15 minutes, he says that the entire idea is to make you better decision makers. Right. And in terms of decision makers, the first thing that you have to do, and this is my experience saying, is that you have to differentiate between what is in your hand and what is an external pressure. Right. If something is not in your hand, there is no point rubbing, or thinking about it that, hey, how will I go about with it? How will I do it? This is not fair. Instead, make an attempt, deal with it, and then focus your energies on things that are in your control. The same with government compliances. You see, government compliances have to be done. Period about it. Don't struggle understanding experiences. Don't struggle understanding those loopholes, those exceptions that, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Be fair with it. The government regulations are made for the commons, not for you in person. So don't really push yourself doing things that are not in your control, and that's the same with life. Yeah. So in terms of law, understand law, do things that are written there, things that are in your control, and in life you do the same. You can, for every decision that you make, you figure out whether this is in my control, not in my control. If it's not in my control, don't worry about it. If it's in your control, give it your 110%, perhaps 200%.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this life advice, I just summarize it in one single line. It's called take control of your life. It is your life and you have to take control of it. The things which are in your control, just give 100% and control them. The things which are not in your control, just don't worry about them because you can't do anything about it. So, yeah. So with this, I would like to end, and I like to thank you a lot for all the life advice and differentiation between human beings and human resources. I think this episode would be absolutely wonderful, and people would really enjoy it. So thank you so much, Debashish, for your time and
my pleasure.
Hey there, thank you for joining us. If you like today's session, do subscribe to our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.